Let's talk about the most difficult thing, I'm talking about hands down, for an automatic driver when they're learning manual. A lot of automatic drivers, when they come to me, they just imagine manual is going to be something that they sprinkle on top of their automatic skills. Like, they know how to drive, they've been usually driving for years, most of the time even decades, and they do it well. I mean, these are the neighbors, these are the people that I might share on the road with. So I understand where this mentality stems from. But the biggest thing, the biggest difficulty, that is for automatic drivers to learn manual, which none of them really foresee, a lot of instructors don't even know about this, is the psychology behind driving. So why am I in any way qualified to speak on this? Who am I? I'm Anton, owner of Drive Stick Shift, a stick shift driving school. I've been operating this school and being the only instructor for about 14 years now. In my time, I've taught thousands of people, thousands and thousands, mostly 99.5%, all automatic drivers to teach how to drive manual. In the old days, it used to be a lot more people came because they wanted to travel. You're going to Europe, manual way more affordable, way more available. Still remains true. Don't get me wrong. Interesting little switch. Not that this is what the video is about, but nonetheless, let's get it in there. Interesting switch. In the last few years, I've been seeing more and more people coming to me because they want to learn manual because now it's turning into a novelty. They see it as this rare driving experience that is under threat of extinction, and they want to be able to get certain vehicles that, maybe as kids they always saw as being these awesome cars, and now they're finally making that dream come true. Anyway, that's not here nor there. That's a different subject for a different day. What is the most difficult thing is the psychology of resetting yourself from driving an automatic to driving a manual. And you may think, well, what does that have to do with anything? It's a machine, you learn the controls, you get on with it. Yeah, quite so. But if you've been driving an automatic for years, decades, honestly, months is enough to already establish these habits. If you've been driving an automatic for any period of time, over 2 weeks, frankly, a month is safe, you have certain habits embedded in your driving style. It's just second nature to you. You get in the car, right? You put your seatbelt on, you turn it on, you put it in drive, and your eyes perceive the road, and your right leg just responds. You being automatic drivers. Then your right leg just responds, operating the gas and the brake how need be. Left foot just gets a free ride. And that's where a lot of this difficulty stems from. The left foot just got kind of used to being Miss Daisy, right? It does not have any kind of duty, just being towed around, and the right foot's doing all the work. And there is just a certain muscle jerk instinct that you have in your right foot, depending upon what you see ahead of you, right? You see brake lights, our right foot goes off the gas to the brake. And really an interesting thing that happens, and I find a lot of the students are completely oblivious. This is a really interesting part in the lesson. Usually within my 2-hour lesson, in the first half hour, we discover this, that every automatic driver is conditioned by their automatic car to constantly be on the pedal. Right now I'm stopped, I'm at a red, I'm in a manual. If I release the brake, nothing happens, I don't go anywhere. But if you try to do this in an automatic, the automatic has somewhere to be. It starts creeping off, idling. Right, there's nothing wrong with it. It's supposed to do that. If you're let off the brake, the car thinks you're going to go. It engages the engine to the transmission, the differential, axles, wheels, and the car gets power and starts to go. Because of that small thing that we're always on the brake, right, even if we're not going anywhere. I see a lot of people, even when the car is in park, they're on the brake and the car is on, because you can tell the brake lights are on. It gets conditioned into their mind that they need to hold a pedal at all times in the vehicle to operate it safely. And just stay with me. I know, right? This may sound a little wacky. But in the same sense, I noticed this with a lot of drivers, that when we're driving in traffic like this, and we see a red light pop up ahead of us, that most automatic drivers, not all, but massive majority, will keep their foot passively on the gas. So you see a red light come out ahead of you, you understand that I'm going to be stopping inevitably within the next few hundred feet, and usually they just keep the same pressure. They don't gas more or less. You just keep the same pressure on the gas until they get close enough to go right to the brake, and then they press the brake the rest of the way until they come to a full stop, and then they hold the brake. And again, it enforces this behavior that we should always be on a pedal to operate the car safely. And it just gets embedded in your psychology, right? Furthermore, if we talk about the psychological effects of that we have to the pedals, right? Gas, when you hit it, you hear it, and the engine revs up. The car gets louder and you accelerate proportionally. So gas also has a direct connection in your mind to acceleration. And that acceleration is not a stretch. It lets us go places, but it could also put you in danger, right? If you're not certain what's going on ahead of you, you don't want to accelerate into it. So furthermore, that's a really tricky part, because in a manual, you can be revving all you want, but until I come off my clutch, the car doesn't go anywhere. And again, that again shows you there are certain psychological factors that automatic subscribe to and that manual does not. When you drive a manual, you're really gauging each situation. When you are driving a manual, you're really not so instinctual upon situations. With automatic, you're far more instinctual. You're doing a turn, you usually accelerate up to the turn, brake through the turn passively, accelerate out of it. But you're literally accelerating until you brake. What is the point? Why not just take your foot off the gas and just roll up? So for automatic drivers, that part is weird. Having your feet not touching any pedals makes them feel uneasy. I kid you not. I see this all the time where I'm teaching someone how to stop, and there may be a moment that we're just rolling up to a stop with the clutch down, or we're in neutral, you don't need to brake yet, and the person starts to panic. You see their right foot kind of having an identity crisis about, where should I be? What am I doing? Hey, buddy, $1? Sorry, I gotta get some water. It's a summer day, it's hot. Can I get a water, please? $1, yeah?
$2. We said water $2, two water $3.
You gotta hustle, I hear you.
Thank you.
No worries.
$3.
Anyway, man's working in traffic. It's hot as heck, so I don't mind giving $2. But yeah, water's getting ridiculously expensive. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Now, that is the trickiest part. A lot of people do not anticipate this. They think that it's just you got to run the controls, you got to make it work. No, and why this is the most difficult part, it pretty much reigns supreme over the first lesson. When a person comes to me, usually first lesson is a 2-hour lesson, and this will plague them for the majority of that lesson. Because again, they need to ignore their instincts. They understand, my students, they do understand what they need to do, how they operate their feet, their left foot and their right foot together, because now we're operating clutch and gas or clutch and brake, depending upon what the situations may be. Different feet have different pressures, different rhythms that they go down in. This is kind of one of the tricky parts. And as I said, this is something, just that second nature of it and fighting that instinct, it makes it difficult for my students for the first lesson. Second lessons go a lot easier. It's had a chance to embed, and they're starting to understand how their feet work together. Things we bring it out in the driver, we explain to them what is their psychology that they're operating with an automatic. It's easy to start resetting that and understanding what is redundant action, what is just unnecessary in a manual, and how we operate a manual. And then we can get on with it. Another thing from the psychological spectrum that also is quite weird is how we use our pedals. So when I say this is going to seem very direct and very easy to understand, right? Our pedals, as they are in an automatic, operated by the right foot, are almost strictly progressive, right? The more you press it, the more you get of that function out of that pedal. So the more you press the gas, the louder the engine gets, the faster the car goes in an automatic. Same thing with a brake. The more you press your brake, the more the car decelerates until inevitably the deceleration turns into a complete stop. You cease moving. Clutch is not really like that. The majority of the clutch pedal, when you're releasing it, is null and void. There's no reaction on it. It's not giving you anything. You're expecting it, but again, nothing. The clutch engagement point is really a minority sliver of the whole clutch release. The point on the clutch that gives you any kind of action or play. The engagement point, also called the sweet spot, the friction zone, the bite points. A lot of cute names, they all ring true. That point is a minority area of the clutch. So when you're releasing it, you're really usually, the automatic drivers, they expect that you're going to feel something from the ground. Also, this engagement point usually exists somewhere in the middle of the clutch. You hit the point of engagement, you let it engage, let it rev match, and then afterwards, everything above that spot, again, null and void. Everything below that spot, null and void, gives you no reaction. So that's also a little bit tricky, right? We know the right pedals, they just have one function. Press them down to get more function out of them, release them when you don't want that function, right? When you don't want to be accelerating or braking. The clutch, not quite so. It's a little more nuanced, quite a bit more nuanced. If you're also doing something like reverse, you're going to be coming up and down on your clutch to allow power to hit the wheels and to limit how much power hits the wheels. So it's, just again, nothing difficult, just the first day and first period is very weird. Now, furthermore, let's, if we do subscribe to this mentality, which I strongly do, and I recommend you do too, if we do subscribe to this, that the longer you drive automatic, the more of this automatic conditioning we need to get out of the way before we can start to reprogram ourselves for manual. It's gonna get worse the longer and longer. Dang, that's the same guy. Just took a block and he's ahead of me. Crazy. Traffic in Brooklyn, huh? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, we're talking about a person that's been driving automatic their whole life, like 30, 40 years, because I get these students. For them, it's even more difficult. And I see the wiring in them. They understand how a car works. And when I start explaining it, they understand how manual works, but they'll drive a little bit and it'll be just like wire sparking in their mind. They got the instruction, but they're still just so deeply embedded in what life has taught them, in what years, decades of driving automatic has taught them to be true. So this also is a bit of a sliding scale. The longer you've driven automatic, the more difficult it gets to negate this. Ironically, the less you've driven it, the easier it is. So this is not a big deal. This is just something I would like people to consider when they are learning manual. A lot of people don't anticipate this, and they're not inclined to come back for a follow-up. And I told them at the end of the first lesson that, you know, this is weird. I understand today was difficult. We did cover a lot of good stuff. Second lesson is significantly easier. That is not a joke. Second lesson, even if they give it like 2 days, it's significantly easier because you had a little bit of time now to sleep on this, let this new instruction instill, and then when you come back to it, understanding how to feather the clutch, understanding how the clutch and the right foot interact is significantly easier. Hope you found this helpful. If there's anything you think I missed, please drop it in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. And I hope to see you on the road. Choose 3 pedals over 2. It's far more engaging, makes you a lot more alert to the road. Also makes you far more in touch with your car as a whole.